Or you could try to steal one from somebody and pay for it with a giant butt kicking. Hi everyone, welcome to today's research-informed defensive lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, Stephanie Widener, and today's video is out of Resistencia, Argentina.
Magtech is the only freedom seed I use on the range. I personally have over 100,000 rounds downrange of Magtech, and it's unbelievably reliable, very accurate, and a great value. Pick some up for your next range trip wherever you shop for range supplies.
These two ladies are just having coffee, setting up, just, talking, and then they see a guy down the street stealing somebody's phone and step in and hit him with a chair when
Shop for range supplies.
These two ladies are just having coffee, setting up, just, talking, and then they see a guy down the street stealing somebody's phone and step in and hit him with a chair when what looks like one of the staff does too and kicks him. And then it's a potluck, man. Everybody comes and beats crap out of this guy. The news story I've linked in the description says that they all held him until the cops arrived when he was complaining that his head hurt because he was beat up so bad. Let's see it one more time. She picks the chair up and gives him the old El Kabong. And then our male staff member there kicks him in the head a couple of times. That brings everybody around. They held him until the cops arrived. The lady got her phone back and no one else was hurt. All right, Steph, I'm gonna talk about the things that people don't like to talk about. As we hear bad stuff on the channel from commenters like, well, women, they're no good at self-defense. And I don't know, these ladies seem to do pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely worth talking about. It's more about the person and not about their body or gender.
I want to start this one by talking about, Stephanie, it seems to me there are some people that are high responders and some people that are low responders. And this lady sees somebody stealing a phone, down the street and decides, I'm going to do something about it. And some people are just high responders like that. And you should know what kind of person you are.
It can be helpful because if you're a high responder, it's one of the
One of the most important ways that Christian theology shapes American politics is through this very ancient, archaic idea that might makes right. In Christianity, God isn't just good because his actions are understandable or moral by human standards. He's good because he's powerful, because he created everything, because he is in charge. That is the foundational lesson that you learn.
Rest now, brother. We have the watch. And I'll see you in Valhalla.
So absurd.
You're not invited to Valhalla, dude. Are you gonna die gloriously on the battlefield? Is that in your plan? Welcome to another edition of This F***ing Guy, the show that picks one f***ing guy making America worse and explains why they suck. I'm Erin Ryan, host of Crooked Media's Hysteria podcast.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco, the other host of Crooked Media's Hysteria podcast. Today, we're talking about Kash Patel, the pop-eyed podcaster and wee little children's book author that Trump put in charge of the FBI.
Patel is a shining example of how, in this great country of ours, if you are aggressively servile to
Slicers are almost useless because most of the features inside of them should actually be designed inside of CAD. So in this video, we're going to go through and show you how you should be designing the raft, the brim, and actually the support in order to minimize material and make sure that your parts print correctly every single time.
You really should not be using a slicer to make brims. They actually really suck at it. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to actually do a brim correctly and how to not have to use a slicer so you don't have to rely on that piece of garbage just messing up your part. Now, when I say messing up the part, I do mean that. If you place a brim onto a part, what you end up with is a bottom edge that has either marred up from any sort of deburring that might have to be done, or potentially just a place of weird extrusion because you have the brim left over there. But the brims are very often necessary. If you're making a part with really sharp or thin tendril-like features, you kind of need a brim because those features can't just necessarily reliably stick to the print bed. So you need to give them a larger surface area so that they actually can stick to the bed. Everyone always flips on the little brim feature inside of the slicer and the brim pops out. But then you spend tons of time cutting at it and polishing it and sanding it and cleaning it up and that kind of stuff. And in the context of things like our print-on-demand applications, where you can upload a file and then have the product shipped to your customer on like your Etsy or your Shopify store, that can introduce the opportunity for problems because you introduce the chance for some sort of error to happen. And the more brim there is to be removed, the more opportunity there is for that. So you really actually want to optimize the brim, especially if you're gonna make 1 million of these things. When your product catches and you actually have to mass produce it, you do not want to be pecking at the brim for an hour for every part. It increases cost, it wastes your time. You want the brim to be optimized, and there is no way to do that inside the slicer. Slicers are terrible at almost everything. Their job is to turn a 3D model into machine motion. Once you start using a slicer for CAD itself, where you're trying to make thick walls and give it a brim and have a raft and have it generate new features, you're now following into this generic profile that just is not very reliable and cannot catch all the situations that you're going to design for. But you can catch all of those in CAD. So this is why we want to talk about brims in detail. Now, if you're designing a brim inside of CAD, the first rule is make it 0.2 millimeters thick. This is a nice generic catch-all. You can make it up to 0.3 too, that's okay, it'll still appear inside the slicer, but 0.2 is also a good catch-all, and then you can know it's thin enough. You do not want to make it thicker. If you make it thicker, it's now more than 1 layer thick inside of the print profile, and if you upload it to a system like ours, then it would definitely be a couple